Hey guys, I'm here today to talk to you some more about ecosystems. Specifically, today we're going to be talking more about aquatic ecosystems, which are the ecosystems that involve water. Before we get into that, I want to make sure everybody understands some of the terms that we've been using so far and some that we haven't really talked about. So, if you look behind me or beside me at my little anchor chart, it shows the organizations of an ecosystem. So if we start at the top is the smallest little individual person or animal or plant or whatever you're looking at. So it starts with the individual, which is a living thing or organism. Okay, and then we look at population, which population is a group of living things of a given species that live in a specific area. So we're talking about one species. That's the population. Okay, then you go to community, which you're getting bigger. You're expanding out here if you think of it like your little circle. Your community is populations of organisms of different species in an area. So now we're talking about different species, all those living things. That's your community. And then if we go into our next thing, it's ecosystems. That's all living things in a certain area interacting with each other and with the non-living or abiotic organisms or items in that environment. And then if you get to the biggest section, you're thinking of all the regions. A biome is regions of the earth that are similar in climate, animals, and plants. Okay, so biome is the largest section. You really don't have to know that term quite yet, but it'll kind of start preparing you for middle school. And you might hear it in and out of some of the little videos that you have to watch or some of the things that you have to read. So think of it from just you, if you want to think of yourself as the individual, on out. Your population, then your community, and then your ecosystem, and then the biome includes all of that. So today, talking about oceans, oceans are one of, or they're not, they are like the largest amount of water. So they are one of the Earth's largest ecosystems, and they're most common for us here in North Carolina. So I don't know if you've kind of realized, but we're talking about both saltwater ecosystems and freshwater, which does not contain salt. So as you know, probably, hopefully, from being in our area, oceans have salt. They're a saltwater ecosystem. So they range, and we talked a little bit about this when we talked about some different topics in science, but the top of the ocean surface is the warmest because it has the most direct sunlight. And then some areas of the ocean are super, super deep, so they're not getting direct sunlight. They're super cold. So that varying temperature in an ocean means that oceans have the greatest amount of biodiversity, which is just a fancy way of saying like the variety of life that lives there, because they have species that only survive in that deep, dark, cold area down at the very bottom, and then species that survive up in the top, warm, lit area. And when we talk about different things, different organisms and animals that live in the ocean area, that will kind of sound familiar to you probably, because there are things that you've probably seen or experienced. So you've got, all different types of fish. You've got seaweed, which nobody really likes brushing up against their leg in the ocean because it's gross and slimy. And And then you've got all different types of what we would call seafood, crabs and shrimp and all those different things that you'll find in the ocean. I don't know if you've realized as I'm talking, but when we talked about estuaries last week, estuaries are the ecosystem that has the most similar life forms to an ocean. So you may have noticed when you look at some of the organisms that live in the ocean that, oh wait, I learned about some of these last week with the estuary. And that's a very common observation because they're similar, because estuaries, remember, have that brackish water, so they have some salt in them as well. So I don't think there's anything else I need to talk to you about with oceans, but what you're going to kind of do as you work through, you're going to start on slide 2 with oceans, which you're obviously already on because you're watching this video, and read the information on slides 2, 3, and 4. And then once you get to slide 5, you're going to do a little lab at home. Now, all the materials that are needed for this lab, you should be able to find at your house. They're common things that your parents or grandparents or whoever probably cook with. You're going to need some containers. You can use little clear cups. You can use glass cups, something that you can see through. Little Tupperware containers, anything like that will work. You're going to need water, which you should be able to get, salt, sugar, and baking soda. Okay, and then you'll go through the directions of the lab, which are really simple. You'll mix in different amounts of those items into each glass. Make sure you label your glasses so that you know which is which, because they're all going to look very similar when you're done. They're going to look like water. You can just take a little piece of paper, a scrap piece of paper or something, and write what it is and put it right in front of your cups. Then you're going to need some kind of, this particular lab said these little plastic gems. You don't have to use those. Any little plastic item would work. Like if you have those little plastic dinosaurs or plastic sea creatures or any kind of thing like that. It also said raw eggs work. Just be careful with them so you don't break them. But just a raw egg, you know what I mean, right out of the refrigerator, not hard-boiled or cooked or anything. Or grapes would also work. So there's a lot of different things that would work here. So you're going to basically place these items in the cups and see where they fall within the water. Do they sink? Do they float? Do they fall in between? And then you're going to just write up a little summary of what happened to the items in each cup and why you think that happened. Please take a picture also of your lab after you've dropped your items in each thing so that I can see how your lab turned out. And if it didn't turn out quite right, we can talk about, well, what happened? That's the good thing about science experiments. They're always a learning opportunity. So I can't wait to see your experiments and read what you found out about this. Obviously, if you were wondering why we're doing this lab, because we're talking about aquatic ecosystems, and some of them have salt and some of them don't, and that affects the type of animals and plants that are found there. So this is going to kind of help us to see some of that. And I can't wait to see what you do.